Eli and Joshua, I'm so impressed with the Torah that you taught us this morning. You've made me so excited to be back because I love hearing this caliber of teaching from our Torah by our B'nai Mitzvah. And as I said to both of you earlier this week, our Torah is our most precious inheritance. But it's not only an inheritance. It doesn't belong to the past. It belongs to the present and the future as well. And the way that we make that true is by teaching it anew every week, in every generation, by making it speak to us and to our times. And you have both done that today. Eli, you gave us an excellent prescription for leadership based off of the negative and positive examples of Korach and Moses, respectively. You taught us that a leader should be humble and not driven by personal gain, that they should derive their power from the respect of their people and not from fear, that they should always strive to do what is right, even when it is hard, that they should know that they don't know everything, that they should feel responsible for their people. And you said, quote, they should put themselves in their people's shoes and really care for their needs. And you clarified that you meant all of the people and not just their supporters. And Joshua, you asked, when is it legitimate to challenge authority, whether it's teachers or parents or the President of the United States? You taught us that unlike Korach, you should only challenge authority when our motivation is not personal gain, but instead the pursuit of truth, truth that will make the world a better place for all people. And the examples you gave us of the kinds of truth we might pursue are to uphold the Constitution and the laws of the United States, to stop corrupt practices by people in authority, or to correct bias or discrimination. Your messages complement one another perfectly. Eli, you were speaking about formal leadership. And Joshua, you were speaking about informal leadership. Let me explain what I mean more about informal leadership. Informal leadership is when you don't have an official position, but you lead anyway. You both were imagining that there are some people with authority, people who are leaders, and others without authority who are not leaders. And to some extent, that's true. Some people run large institutions, like the United States government. Some people have big platforms. Some people wield a lot of power, and others do not. But the divide is not as big as it seems. Everyone has some power to influence the people around them. And everyone can build informal authority by earning the respect of others. I've been away for 6 months. And as I mentioned before, this is my first Shabbat back at CBE. And I have missed this place and this community very, very much. I am and will forever be grateful for the immense gift that I was given of 6 months to renew myself. And I'll be saying more about that on July 11th. But for now, I'll say this. For 4 of the last 6 months, I was traveling in South America. And though my primary goal was to be in wilderness and to be in beauty, and that's most of what I did, I was also aware that every country I traveled in had lived through some kind of authoritarian regime. And while I was there, I learned about those histories. I read books, and I went to museums, and I talked to people. And the most surprising thing that I learned was that it was all kinds of ordinary people in all walks of life, of all ages, who found ways of leading by challenging unjust use of authority and by creating alternative ways for people to come together and get their needs met. And when enough people decided to lead and decided to pursue truth and a different path for their country, culturally or socially or religiously or economically, subtly or overtly, directly or indirectly, secretly or openly, things began to change, and it led to the end of that regime. I used to think that distributed leadership was really only possible in a democracy, but that's not true at all. Regardless of the nature of our government over time, we all share responsibility for the society we create, because we are a communal species who evolved from herds and then tribes. We look to one another for cues and clues about how to behave, which means that every one of us, regardless of age or station or role or platform, has the ability and the responsibility to lead the people around us. There is no reason to wait until you arrive at a certain age or a certain life stage or some position or a moment when it suddenly gets real. There is no such moment. It's real now. And if you think that people aren't watching, looking around for models of what to think and what to say and what to do and how to be, then you're not paying attention. None of us has it figured out. We're all watching each other. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks observes that Korach has a fundamental misunderstanding of what leadership is. And I think we tend to as well. Korach says to Moses and Aaron, "Why do you place yourselves above Adonai's assembly?" He imagined that Moses and Aaron as leaders were above the community. We too tend to think of leaders as above the people in vertical hierarchy. But that is not actually how Torah thinks of leadership, or how Moses or Aaron did. As you mentioned, Eli, with only a few exceptions, Moses only does or says what God tells him to do or say. Not only does Torah tell us explicitly of Moses' humility, it tells us that the priests were meant to be merely conduits for the flow of God's blessing. Sacks says, "Neither priest nor prophet has personal power or authority. They were transmitters of a word not their own. That is why humility was not an accident of their personalities, but the essence of their role. Even kings were not supposed to put themselves above other people. Holding oneself higher than the people you lead was seen as a moral failing." Moses is called Eved Adonai, the servant of God, 18 times in Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible. This became the definition of leadership for the Jewish people. To lead is to serve. 1,000 years later, when Rabban Gamliel appointed 2 sages to office, he said, "Do you imagine I'm offering you rulership? I'm offering you avdut, the chance to serve." And that brings us back to the idea that all of us have the potential and responsibility to be leaders, no matter where we stand or what we do. As God says of the Jewish people in Leviticus, "To me, the Israelites are servants. They are my servants, whom I brought out of Egypt." That is the highest calling any of us can fulfill. To dedicate our lives to serve the oneness that is within us and among us and beyond us, the life force that connects all things and all beings, the force that moves us from what is to what can be. In fact, the most crystallized clarity of my sabbatical, the message I came home with most strongly, is exactly this. My deepest yearning for the remaining years of my life is only to serve that oneness with all of my heart and all of my soul and all of my being. And I believe that is why I am here. That is why I am alive. And I believe that is why you are here, too. That service is what leadership looks like. That service is what every one of us can do. Shabbat Shalom.